They really want to go to them.
Força, podes ir grande.
You have to run around, and then we're going to do some variations.
Não.
Este fim de semana.
Pedro Gonçalo.
A minha está com o Sidney.
Desculpa, qual é o teu nome? Olá, menino. Maravilha.
Only open racket face. Let's do this for a bit.
Muito devagarinho.
Não vais conduzir, pá. Não vais conduzir.
So this, again, we're a little bit too many on the court now, but this, for practicing the open racket face and the touch, is not a problem. This is nice and gently. What we will start doing now, you always have to go around the cone that's lying at the back there. There's a cone there. You always have to go around before you can start cueing again. Okay, so first around the cone there. Oi, oi, yes, now.
Olha, já te atrasaste.
No, hey, you don't play, hey, you play against each other, guys. Let's try to win and make a point now, eh? Make it a bit tougher, eh?
Ai, Joana, não vou, mas não consegues.
Up! Around the curve, same direction.
Estranho, perdeu o ponto.
Para o outro lado, eu. Ia para o outro lado.
Shit, these guys. Hey, the ball can only bounce once, huh? It can only bounce once.
Já para os 3 vezes.
É, capitão!
Okay, one line. You see, by simply adding that to it, huh? You can, if you do this with a, let's go, you can continue, guys. It's okay, yeah? Warm up, huh? By simply adjusting the distance that I have to run, you can actually get, and if you do it with, you can do this with 15 on the court and put 2 cones, 1 in each corner, right? And then it's just and meanwhile they're doing that a little bit, or you do it on 2 courts, of course. But cardiovascular, you'll be surprised how high you get if you let them do this for 15 minutes instead of having your players for a fitness session, having them run 20 minutes or 30 minutes in the forest and do a fartlek. You can do this as well, eh? You'll be surprised about the distance that you run. It's change of direction. You can do a little zigzag in between. You can put 2, 3 cones there that I have to do some side steps in between, and you get then into, which you might have done, some cardio tennis, actually. You can then start doing this. If the control of your players is not so good, you do this with an orange ball, and you do it on 1 service box, so that you keep the control of the racket a little bit in control. Meanwhile, you let them run it. Okay, well, how many players do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have, we'll use that court as well. You have 1 ball per couple. Only 1 ball. Choose a partner. 1 ball here, 1 ball there, and 1 ball there. Let's warm up. Let's make sure we're even, or if somebody else wants to. So you can take that court as well,
Prof, Mario.
Okay.
You want to play, Mark? You're first, take that court. If you make a mistake, you run and go and get the ball.
Vais à rede a correr, apanhar a bola.
Estamos a fazer um arco. Estamos a exercício lá.
We go to the baseline now.
Caras na rede.
Let's keep the ball still for a second.
Trocas a
And what I hate sometimes is if we start to play sloppy tennis. Yesterday I already gave an example.
Parece básico.
They've got something to work for. Now we're going to do something
Faz de aquecimento, faz de
different.
controle,
We're
faz
going
de
to make it
tudo.
slightly uncomfortable. Okay? You only have one ball. That's already annoying. Yeah? If you make a mistake in the net, you have to go and run and get it. Okay? But if you hit a ball in the net, all seven other players have to do 3 push-ups or 3 double knee jumps. So if you make a mistake, you just have to pick up the ball. The 7 others have to stop and have to do 3 push-ups or 3 double knee jumps. So maybe we're a little bit older, doesn't need to be the double knee jumps, but 3 of something you need to do. Let's see what happens. Okay, here we go.
Lá na rede. Joana, pensa assim, que assim não enches tu, assim os outros.
Nas pernas.
Não,
Não faz.
quem falha não faz.
Falha não faz. Deixei os outros.
Tira a bola para a praia. Tira a bola para a praia. Vamos lá, Joana. 2 pontos.
If you let a ball bounce twice, it's the same rule, huh?
Joana, então pelo menos provoca o erro no adversário.
Vai, Bruno.
Já está.
Aê, canhão!
Que foi? Que foi?
And you can start playing again, yeah? No, if you miss the ball, you don't need to do anything. Just pick up the ball and play again. Okay, let's
Vão acertar quantas contigo?
Mas vai fazer esta merda com os puxos, vai estar de propósito.
Quando a bola vai a ver, não é?
everybody 3 push-ups, yeah?
Tira a bola.
E brincar que era bom desporto com o ténis.
Isto é para criar rancor.
Eu ponho nos pontos todos. O gajo não faz mais atualmente todos.
Foi o Pina.
Mas o gajo também faz. Não há conflitos de 2 e 3 anos. Sim, mas acho que vai. Mas aí já não é. Pois.
Pá, imagina, exercício de ir linhas, percebes? Não poucos tempo, não estás a fazer ou não sei o quê, para falar, tu podes descansar, os outros fazem a dobrar por ti.
Exatamente.
Para ti, foda-se, cabrão.
A bola fosse foda.
Pega a direita.
Eu não consigo deixar as pessoas. Olha só, era ali.
When you finish at 7 without missing, you will have had a good practice session, eh?
Segue, Bruno, segue! Ah, bem apanhado, Bruno!
What's that? 2 pounds? Okay, yeah, everybody. Okay, let's stop here. Okay, so the message. I mean, there's 2 observations. With 1 ball, you make less mistakes because it's a bit boring because you have to go and pick up the ball. You add something like this, the real fun begins. Okay, you've now taken enough margin. I actually don't mind. I mean, sometimes you can admit if you would have warmed up with 5 balls in your pockets, you would have not had the length of rallies that you've had now probably. You would have made a mistake because, you know, you make a mistake, you take the next ball, you don't care as much, okay? Here you care because you have to run and pick up, it gets boring if you have only 1 ball. leave the basket away when you warm up. And of course, at a higher level, with players or adults, you can start adding something like this. Because with kids, it can be a bit tricky, but the real fun begins if you were to miss 2 shots in a row, and you really the first time, everybody laughs a bit, Hey man, make a mistake and net all the other. I'm telling you, the second time, it's not so much fun anymore, because they all start to look at you. So I sometimes do this on 4 courts, or on 5 courts, on a Wednesday, on a Saturday afternoon when we have big groups in the big hall. I'm telling you, it's not so much fun, and the feeling that you have of having a slightly, trembling arm, if you missed twice in a row and you make not just now 7, but you make 15 other people do push-ups or something. No fun, No fun, Afterwards, they start to look at you, and the mentally weak players, I'm telling you, they start to really push the ball, After a while, they're afraid of hitting, So it is a mentally focused thing in a warm-up, which I really like. Let's add a bit of, if you are with 4 in a court, just to continue the warm-up before we do something specific. Let's play some competition. We're going to play forehand cross court, everybody. You play as a team. The winners are going to play each other, but you have to play forehand cross court. You can only play the outside shots, and you have to recover in front of the other person. Okay? Double lines are out. You hit the ball, recover in front of the other person. If you make a mistake, if it's on the backhand side, it's out. If it's in net, it's out. If you don't recover in time in front of the other one, you also lose the point. Okay? This is also what you hit only half of the amount of balls that you would hit in a situation where you have all 4 playing at the same time, but it is in a much more realistic way. And again, after 5 minutes, you'll be tired, but it will be much more realistic. And you can play a higher ball, if it's really a short cross ball, you have to recover in front, play it a little bit higher so you have time that you can. That's absolutely not a problem. But you cannot score winners, basically. You are with 2 people on half a court. The person who's going to win this exercise, or the team that is going to win this exercise, is the team that keeps the ball in play. It'll be very hard to make winners. So the concept, the idea is really to keep the ball longer in play. You see these guys are both doing their rituals already. They're really into the zone, because the winning team of this competition, we start with forehand, and then we play the winners against each other in backhand. 2 winners both get a stake from the female tennis journey. Okay, so there's something at stake. You're playing, this is the female tennis journey cup. Okay, trophy. Okay, so you're there in good teams like it is now. We play up to 5. Okay, but if you do this really well, this could take 50 minutes. It doesn't matter. You'll be sweating. You'll be warmed up. Okay. No more questions about the exercise? Huh? Only forehand cross court. Only forehand cross court. Up till 5. Up till 5. Yeah. 4 all is deciding point. Okay.
À frente, à frente.
Here we go. Recover in front of each other all the time. In front, yeah.
Bora aí, Joana.
Vamos!
You can only win if you don't make mistakes.
Não é com gosto, todos com gosto e a Joana também tem uma mão.
Okay, stop. Yeah, point for them. You have to recover in front. Yeah? Okay, stop.
Ele diz que não dá, não dá.
Yeah, just I wouldn't play a drop shot in this exercise.
Ainda não consegue ter uma frase.
This is also mental exercise. You cannot take a crazy shot like that. You know, that's giving up in your head. You're weak in your head. You cannot give up here.
Está condicionado aqui, é só slice desse lado.
Estou por trás ali, Diogo. Recupera por trás.
Cover in front.
Diogo, culpa é minha.
Vamos ganhar 2 seguidos.
Even adults, they start to argue about points. You see, and we sometimes wonder why it's a problem with the kids. You know, the adults are even making ridiculous discussions. But what you see here, it's very simple. They only hit half of the amount of balls, but I prefer that they do it at this intensity and that they're moving rather than they're standing there in a corner. It's not. This is also not very realistic. That's out, eh? No tram lines, eh? No tram lines. We play singles.
Não.
Vai.
Eu primeiro percebi, não.
Também pode ter sido. Why não?
5? How was the score here?
Mas já fez.
It was up to 5. Yeah. And how much is it?
He gets carried away.
8-4. Okay, so who had 5 first? Okay, so that's the winning team there. You can do backhand on this court, and you guys have to do backhand on that court. Here you go. The final, very quickly, to decide who gets 2 sticks. 2 more. And then we're ready. Then we get into some action, and then we warm up. We've got 8 victims then.
Este é o peão dos finais, ali é terceiro e quarto.
Ele já ganhou uma já.
Já ganhaste.
Okay, we play up to 3, yeah? So we can get started. 3. Okay, 1.
Saca a pen, Mário, saca a pen, Mário.
Sidney almost has his free stick, eh? Look at him smile.
Saca a pen, Mário.
Se o pé vai para o Porto, está tudo lixado.
Fica mais a ver.
Only backhands, eh? Only backhands.
Com o Alberto Miguel a ganhar.
Hit if you can.
A única que bate na bola é a mulher.
É ténis de
Rabo de cavalo, estavas à espera de quê? Que batesse na bola. Não, Joana, rabo de cavalo.
Já a seguir. Bora, Lê! Bora!
Drop shot is okay also? You can do whatever you want there.
Deste tempo que eu vou ser. O Miguel não valia aquilo. 160
Come on!
Pen,
Okay.
pen para o livro.
Pen.
Mário, bom trabalho.
But the winners have to do the next exercise. Okay.
Mário conduz, Mário conduz.
Okay, guys, come over here. We go into the volley exercise. Unfortunately, we only have 1 basket, so we're going to stick on 1 court for now because we do need a few drills. what I like to do as a volley warm-up. Yesterday we talked about in women's tennis how specific these volleys are. We talked about a drive volley and we talked about a drop volley. Now, a good volley exercise, again, boys or girls, is what I call little volleys. It's not like mini tennis volleys, but I like to focus with the volleys on a perfect balance, on the footwork, and if the footwork is okay, if the balance is okay, then the control of the racket becomes easy as well. Because I only want you to block the ball, sit here, you play everything in my forehand volley. Again, I'm going to be a little bit here, I'm going to be a little bit there, and we play, safe net, we play volley. We play volley. But you're in the middle, you've got a whole court. You've got a whole court, you play everything here. I stand in the corner so that the person at the other end, again, and then Mark, you can come over here for a second after the next one where we go through them. But in the beginning, if you're doing your individual session, the control of the volley, what I like is then you're only going to focus on a steady racket head, and all the rest is split, 1, 2, split. Okay, perfect footwork. Forehand and backhand. Which volley, the forehand or the backhand volley, does he have to cut the angle more on the
Short ball.
not on the short ball, on the which direction?
Right.
On the cross ball, right? Cross and cut. So the cross one you really have to get, and very soft. This is like not hard volley with reaction. This is not an exercise for the arm. Arm is very still. It's an exercise for the feet. Low and wide. I call it in Flemish. I call it bloggen, breed, laag, raket opwaarts, and with the correct grip. So low and wide position the whole time. Split, 1, 2, split. Here we go. And very soft. No, everything in my forehand. Yeah, I show it to you. We do against me alone, and then we go 2 against 1. But now a little bit here first. Here we go. And the ball cannot bounce. 1, 2, and split. Here we go. 1, 2, split. In my forehand, I need to have perfect control. 1, 2, and split. 1, 2, split. Up, 1, 2, split. Up, 1, This racket is making all sorts of funny noise. 1, 2, and split. Okay, this is split, 1, 2, and pushing back on the same foot, okay? The one good thing that I would like to work on with female players, but in general, is the positioning of a thing. You do split, 1, 2, immediately switch, okay? Split, 1, 2, switch, okay? Do that one again there. Up, 1, 2, and switch, yeah? Here, I'm lazy, okay? Here, I want the ball here, nowhere else. Here we go, 1, 2, split. I'm not moving, 1, 2, split. Here, forehand volley, Here. Up, 1, 2, split. 1, 2, and switch, and switch. Now you push, the more, switch. 1, 2, switch, yeah? Back, you don't push back, you don't step into it. The moment you step in, much harder, you jerk your racket head and you lose control. It's a soft landing. Split, 1, 2, and switch. Immediately back to your ready position. Here we go. 1, 2, up, and switch. Up, 1, 2, and switch. Up. 1, 2, and switch. 1, 2, and switch. Up. Yes, whistler. Bruno, come. This is not a fun exercise. It's mini tennis, but this is the warm-up exercise that I've done with all the players that I've worked with. And for somebody like Kim, certain people forget that. She's been 1 in singles. She's also been 1 in doubles. And we never practice doubles. Only later in the career. But as a youngster, but you can feel immediately stay low and wide the whole time. Here we go. Up. 1, 2, and switch. No pushing back on so not this, and your upper body always stays in balance, Split, 1, 2, split. There you go. And cross and cut for the up, cut, and back. Don't push back on the same, You're pushing back on the same foot. That takes too long. Step, switch. Do it like that. Here. 1, 2, and switch. high ball because they cannot be too close. Sorry. Up. 1, 2, and switch. That's it. 1, 2, switch. Okay. Now, you do this one. If I'm on my own, I do this. Me in the corner, and they do that on their own. They've got a whole court. But we do it 2 against 1 now, Mark. So this is easy. Bruno, you can now play where you want. But same thing. It is your exercise. It's by your balance and your footwork. Constantly wide low. Split, 1, 2, switch. The nice thing now is if you can do this 2 against 1, is that he can show that he can choose where he has to reposition. Here you go. So you can go wherever. 1, 2, and switch. Up, up. Up. There we go. 1, 2. And it doesn't need to be harder than this. If you can do this, up, good. 1, 2, up. This is an exercise for your feet, not for your. Yeah, one more rally. Here you go. Up. And this is quite intense. I think personally, if you do these small volleys, kleine volleys, I call them, this is as good. If you do this very well in this exercise, the one from the back is easy. It's easy. Just block the ball. You don't need to. It's here where it starts and with your balance. A volley, you need to keep it as simple as possible. And the biggest problem is that players are conditioned to hit the ball. They stand at the net. They're not in balance, and they think they have to swing. Here, the focus is on the bottom part and on blocking the ball. And you have to do this exactly the same when you go at the back of the net. Another advantage is that, especially with younger children, if you do this, they practice it in the correct way with the correct grip. Okay? What happens if young children who relatively are a lot smaller and they're standing on the back of the head, you know, they're relatively like this, so they get all the balls up here, which is a problem. They don't learn to play the normal volleys. You are much better off doing this for a few years, and they'll be very skilled in controlling the balls when they get a bit higher. Talking about when you're too small in your grips, talking about how we feed the ball. This is not just, I'll give one example now, but you have to think about it. There's plenty of other examples. If you have a problem with a player with the volley grip, but they've been playing too small, you let them play at the net, the kids at the baseline don't control the ball, and they stand close to the net and they play with this grip. Is that a problem? Is that a problem? I'm a little kid, I'm close to the net and I play with this grip. It's not a problem. It's probably the only way that I can play a volley, you know, and I can even win the point. So it's not a huge problem. So make sure that with little kids, I think volleys, you do it like this in a volley situation, or you do it with feeding the ball, and then you can sort out grip problems very easily. Let's pretend, Bruno and Sydney, that you both have this forehand grip on volley. You don't have a proper chopper grip. Okay. If I now feed a few balls from here, stand in the middle. You can both try. Don't stand in the middle. Each Bruno starts with three volleys. Bruno. I'm going to ask you to play a backhand volley. Okay. This one is quite clear. First the forehand volley. That's not a problem. This volley is not a problem. Now backhand volley. Okay. Short angle there. Drop volley. Stretch and drop. Here you go. Up. Okay. Yeah. So this first before that's okay. And now with that grip, you can do this volley. It's not a problem. Now, if I have somebody who's got a grip problem on this backhand volley, I would feed the ball from here, because there, a wide ball that you feed low, you can play a perfect angle one. They're both just shown how they can. But now, you know, you need to play down the line, a solid backhand volley. I give you a higher ball. Yeah? Here you go. Up. Now you immediately see he has to break his wrist. So if I'm working on this grip with these guys, he has already changed his grip. That's not the grip that he was waiting for. I didn't change. But you feel that if you want to change your grip, just because I feed a high ball here, they automatically adjust the grip. So think a little bit about the impact that we as coaches have on where our basket is and how we feed the ball. It's a huge difference. It's like yesterday with the backhand slice. If you feed the ball too high, forget about it. You know, they should hit with 2 hands probably. So we have to feed it wide and low. If you have this grip problem, you know, with kids, just learn them how to play a backhand volley and always feed the ball slightly cross court and let them play down the line. And they will automatically start playing with the correct grip. Okay, to that comment I made yesterday in the classroom about the female volley. Let's do a few dry volleys. Very easy. I feed them from the corner, and then we do the second most important volley, which is a drop volley. So you use your own grip, of course. Start on the baseline tee. Don't feed a drive volley. The drive volley is not difficult. Even kids from 8, 9, 10 can do it. Don't feed that from here. Don't feed it from here. It's not yeah, that they have from a ball that's going from the middle, and then they're never going to get that. Okay, so feed it a little bit from that corner and a little bit from that corner. Okay, so drive volley, and then ideally, let's say for a drive volley, I would not make it too complicated. Always go in the open court. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Always in the open court. Don't make them think. The reason why, I think, if you do a good drive volley and the ball comes from here, okay, if you hit a good drive volley, I think 90% of the time you can win the point, and if they can reach it, then maybe you get an easy volley afterwards. Okay? So, if I know that there's a good drive volley, I have the option also to pretend as if I'm going, or I can stay. I would often do that. I think in defense for your players, if there's a drive volley, yeah, I would really pretend as if you're going and then wait. That's maybe a better chance if they choose you, if you can make them doubt. It's a little bit like a goalkeeper. That's a better option than having to run there, and if they hit an open court, it's going to be a good one anyway. So always open court, okay? And then you get a second ball and then you play a drop volley, okay? Make me run the biggest distance. I throw one up here, and then I play passing shot down the line. I'm not going to run for it, I'll just feed it. And then you make a drop volley, short stretch and drop. Yeah? See my back, you come. Okay, and okay. This is another exercise, like the slice yesterday, with this passing shot. And you can hit the ball in the net. Okay? One excuse, because you have to hit it low of the net. If you hit it too high, they're going to play a normal volley. Yeah, here we go. Hit it from low. Okay, it's in the sun, huh? Sorry, it's just a bit annoying there, but you're just going to do it, yeah? Yeah, and? What's...
You need the racket?
No, it's fine. I just need a bit of adjustment. Here we go. Yes, and up. Okay, so you have to feed it wide and low. You can go with this. I think these are the most, the two most important volleys in women's tennis. I really think. Then you can make this into a fitness exercise. So you can come to the net. So the drive volley is very simple. Eh? A few from the backhand corner, a few from the forehand corner, every single day. You don't have to do this for 20 minutes. You just do it every day a few minutes. Okay, now go with your right foot inside the huge service box. Okay. We're in this position. I do this as a fitness exercise, really explosive. You're going to play 3 times this stretch and volley, but you have to go no backhand, and you have to go every time with your right foot back into that service box. And I feed you three backhand volleys. Okay? And this is something to do. You can do this. We talk about. It's a shame that yesterday we didn't do the work with the medicine ball. When you have to work on producing power on a clay court, and you have to load in that open sense, and then unload, I think those are good exercise to do with a medicine ball. Okay? If it is about keeping the balance whilst you're running, you can do it with a resistance band, but I like to do this exercise, these lunges with the weight vest on. Doesn't need to be too much, you know, between 2 and 3 kilo extra is more than enough, okay? But you know the weight belts, huh? Or the weight vest, huh? You do this, wide and low, and you do 3 backhand volleys, short cross volley, stretch and go. Up. Okay, back, stretch, up. Now we need back, up. Okay, yes, you know. You'll be surprised with young kids, not with the weight vest, but with young kids, they haven't done a drop volley. Do this with them. So quickly they learn when they stretch, they can still do this and touch, volley, sharp cross. Here we go. Up! Yeah, that's, I'm aiming for the net tape, huh? I'm aiming for the net. Straight, 1, 2. See, I'm getting used to the racket now. This is a good sign. Okay, last one. Here again, you need to cover that if you're wearing this weight vest. You know, split, 1, 2. Okay, you need to be there in one big step. Here you go. Up. Okay, and drop.
I have new racket.
1, 2, switch. Okay, quicker switch. Up. And switch. Good. We're getting somewhere. We got it. Stretch and drop. Stretch and drop. These for me are the 2 most important volleys in the women's tennis. Do these every day and you'll be surprised if these girls come to the net and they can stretch and they can learn how to sort of just block the ball, because there's one aspect that we said yesterday. With these girls, they may be not running forward that quick, mostly lateral. This doesn't need to be the perfect drop volley either. If they just block the ball and then place a sharp crosscourt, any ball that lands inside the service line is going to be very difficult, if it stays low, to actually play the next shot. It's a nice exercise actually. When you do play volley, this is at a higher level then. When you do volleys, to play volleys in a rally, and you play volley, you aim for the service line, next one you aim for the baseline. Because the volley, the short volley, this is not a drop volley, but the short volley that you keep short and low is underestimated. But for good doubles players or players like Tim Henman, etc., they use that quite a lot. Or Roger Federer, when he comes to net, he does that also. It's not a winning volley, but it's a volley where you keep the ball low. Whilst we're at the volley, maybe one specific volley that I think you can increase a lot on in a very short period of time. It's not just the normal volleys, etc., but it's a volley in the doubles game. You all play some doubles in competition, and the confidence of the volley player is very often not in balance with how comfortable they are from the baseline. Especially in women's tennis, you see very often that it turns out into a singles match in the cross line, so to speak. You can practice, I mean, even if they do some normal volleys with a basket nice, what they often are not comfortable with is poaching at a high pace. And same with the analogy from the skiing, you need to make them get used to poaching. Okay? So let's do the position that Bruno has served, or somebody, and Sydney, you're at the net. Huh? Okay, so Bruno, you're serving. Sydney's at the net, and you serve down the tee. Okay, so I'm having backhand return. What's your position, Sydney? Right there. Okay. So you can easily. And what is for my backhand return position? The maximum that I can play probably is there. No, it's just this, so he can still get there. So let's put where the ball comes over to where it lands. What's the over there where it lands? Alright, so my backhand return about there, right? That's probably, I can't go any sharper than that. Okay, so coming from the backhand, where it crosses the net, is probably here, so you only have to cover this distance. This one here. And then let's see. More he doesn't have to cover. If he knows that Bruno is going to he doesn't need to be any further than that. So can you get there? That ball? So show me shadow backhand. Yeah? 1, 2. He's there easily. So he can stay where he is. Now how far can you get from that position to the forehand side? So split, split, 1, 2. Okay. So coming from the backhand side, that position from there, the ball crosses the net approximately here. Well, that was a bit further, bit back. Exactly. So, if you have a good net position, yeah, and you're tall, like Sydney, you can cover, and you see that in doubles more and more. I mean, doubles now and 10 years ago, it has undergone a revolution. Huh? This is no longer this nice touchy thing. These guys are just hanging on top of the net, and they have been practicing one specific volley. It's this reflex volley. They are used to being much closer to the net than they are. We probably said that 30 years ago as well. Move to the net, get close, have it. But they have taken it to a different level. And how? By practicing that. So, the closer Sydney is to the net, the easier the distance between these two balls gets. The further back he is, the wider my options are, and the more Bruno has to pick it up. So we're going to make it as easy as possible for Bruno, and we're going to practice the reflex volleys. Now, when I've worked a few years with Louis Caillé, somebody knows Louis Caillé? Yeah? So he's a doubles specialist that has worked with many top 10 doubles players. And this is by doing certain aspects of the doubles game a little bit more specific. And this is one exercise where he then asked me to sort of, if I was on another court, you know, he asked me to quickly come and feed because I could do that a little bit harder than him. But he took that to extremes. But you look at guys like Ross Hutchins, Colin Fleming, guys who were not necessarily the biggest talents in doubles, they have made the difference at the net. And I find in the singles game, the drive volley, a specific stroke that doesn't get enough attention. And in doubles, you do a few of these exercises. We started doing that now at the academy. Players are getting more and more comfortable by poaching, because if you do the normal double situation and you say, oh yeah, Sydney, try to poach as much as possible, you know, we talked earlier about the efficiency of your exercise. You poach maybe per game, you play doubles, there's not that many opportunities to poach. Here we're gonna practice the volley from Sydney, where he is poaching. And of course you understand where he's standing now, you understand why they start to do more and more this position. Okay, we play now a match, Sydney. I need to feed the ball between these two yellow balls. If the ball lands in the court, it's my thing. If you get your racket against it, it's yours. Okay? Here you go. Ready? Okay. Now, of course, you need to get ready. I can also hit straight in the middle, of course. Oui. So be ready now. So, here you go. Ready?
Quem quiser passar o Sydney é do lado esquerdo.
He's a bit too eager to coach now.
I was watching that myself, that's why.
But you'll be surprised. Do it with some of your players, and you have to, of course, choose how hard you can feed. But do this a few times, and you will be surprised how comfortable they will become in actually poaching. Because it's not that they cannot play a volley, they can all play a volley. What they cannot do is, if the ball passes and the ball comes from there, is to have that quick reaction to get in here, let alone if they get the ball. So you need to practice that a little bit. Do this, make me a promise, pick your best player and do 5 sessions where you spend 5 times, okay, 10 minutes, 15 minutes on this, okay? You do it in this position, you do it from the other side, just think, make these markers and see how much net they can cover and make them used to being, you know, more comfortable at the net. 5 sessions, and then you send an email to Vitor, that the first session they were all pissing in their pants, and in the 5th session they really see it as a challenge. Now of course, if you do this in a doubles, to stick a little bit with, Vito said to me I can sort of go a little bit in all directions this afternoon. So let's see where we end up. If you have questions, you ask them. If we do this, we come closer to the net, what becomes a risk? Lob. So when Kim and Sugiyama were one in the world, Sugiyama was with this type of stuff, she was unbelievable. Some of you might remember Ai Sugiyama. She had unbelievable reflexes, and she loved being like this on the net, and she kicked her like that. She was on the Kara. Black is also somebody like that. And Kim was always hanging backwards a little bit, because I didn't like to run backwards for a smash. Okay, so she was really covering the net, and when there was a lob, Kim was always a little bit, and she was athletic enough to go and get the ball or to smash or whatever. So that's something that if they play a lot of volleys, a lot of doubles together, that you need to see. If one is really more comfortable in doing this, that the other one has to maybe cover behind a little bit. But here's another nice exercise, or a thing to think about when you then do the smash. Okay, in this situation you're a bit closer, the smash needs to get better as well. Watch out maybe with that ball sitting there. Okay, we both do one at a time. Bruno, you can join in again as well. So you get into a normal position, or Bruno, you can stay there on the service line. No, stay there, stay there, stay there. And you're gonna watch. Sydney, come a bit closer. Watch out now when you jump, because I'm gonna really give you a tough lob. You're gonna watch, Bruno, who is the first. We're gonna do a race. Who is the first on the service line? Sydney, in his first 2 big steps backwards, or the ball that I'm feeding. And you will see, if the ball is first crossing the service line, it'll probably be my point if it lands inside. If Sydney manages to be so quick with his first 2 steps, he'll probably be able to smash. Okay? So let's see. How that from here? A bit closer, a bit closer. Okay, so, here we go. Ready? Up. Okay, so it's a tricky. Who wins, the ball or Sydney? The ball. Okay, Sydney, see if you can, this first step, this is this crossover step, with the smash. This first 2 steps need to be big. Just think about it, it's a race, forget about the smash. Forget about the smash. Think about racing against the ball, okay? Race to the line, and you can smash up. Up, up, up! No, that's not racing, You're not running backwards, you're not looking at the ball, you just start to run, But of course, but race with the correct footwork, Let's do it again. Let's do it again. With the center there. Okay, last one, and then Bruno, you're gonna do. Okay, ready with the correct footwork. Keep watching the ball. Race against the ball. Up, up, up. Yeah, you turn too quick. You turn Bruno.
Objetivo ok, o gajo apanhar a bola.
Acho que é a primeira linha.
Okay, here we go.
Então estava a escrever no vídeo.
Here you see that Sydney is taller. Here you see you can be a smaller player, but you can do that much faster. If you're at the service line, that's okay.
The shadow. The shadow.
Sombra, sombra.
He started. Okay, ready? Up, 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 up. That was easy. Okay, Bruno.
Cara do gajo.
Tu és o gajo.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. I have to say, Sydney, he does it quicker than you, those first few steps. He does it quicker than you. So that's where you can press. So remember the race to the service line, okay? With the correct technique, those crossover steps, don't start running like that, you completely lost it. So this is on the smash, nice exercise as well. Okay, where are we? Let me just have a look. So what have we? So we've done something in the warm-up with competition and with some mental toughness. Drive volley, drop volley. Okay, we have level 77 we done yesterday. Zone of truth we done yesterday. Exercise which I personally like. Diego, but Jogo. Okay, that's easy. Now I can visualize.
Mandar uns balazes.
Okay, go and stand baseline team.
Barato,
One exercise that I like doing with the forehand footwork, which covers sort of all aspects. We're going to do 5 balls. We do 5 forehand, 1 wide one. So normally medium wide. We start with the wide one. Quickly recover. You get a low one. I call it the bowling, like you go 10-pin bowling. You stay low, you know, with a long arm. Do this one. Quickly recover. Then you get one inside the court. Where you have to choose between open stance or this left, depending how close the ball gets to you. Then you run around, high ball on the back, you run around, and you play forehand inside out, and then the last one you play like Roger Federer, you come in, you recover first, you come inside the court, you go from your front foot on your left foot, and then you finish. Okay? That's just right. Take it easy, yeah? Here we go. Ready? Yeah, up, wide one. Okay, back. Recover. Slow. Let's stay low. No, front foot. Okay, back. High one here. Choose your footwork. Okay. Next space. Okay, and Roger. Okay. Yes. Martin, go on. Okay, so this is the order. Let's do that a few times.
Martin.
Sorry.
Martin é muito.
Here you go. Mario. Yeah, up. Okay, back, cross over, back, stay low, up, back. Choose your footwork now. Okay, up, make space, and yeah, City, come on, here you go. Yeah, wide, up. Okay, cross over, back. Stay low, back, up.
Ai, a minha raquete, né? E o pior é que a bengala é minha.
Oh, pá, isso é que não me engraçado.
Seria um winner já. E tem que acabar.
This is an exercise I did with Janina. We did this in interval session for her condition, for her fitness. If she wanted, so we were working on having a bit more racket head speed. We combined it with this type of fitness. I think with those 5 types of footwork, you have all 5 types that are covered, more or less. Okay? You have one, maybe when you have to run backwards, where you do this one. But I think in general that's one. Sorry?
Isto vai ser o meu quarto kit.
Yeah, when you're doing that, I think that's okay. And then this one, you start to mix up with the different. So let's do one more. Martin, you were next. Mario, sorry man.
Super Mario.
So these are the 5 options, but I can mix them up now. 5 balls. Yeah, ready? Here's up, wide one. Okay, back. Okay, next space. Okay, here, low one here. Up and back. Up. Martin. So, an important one I find in this exercise is that you always have to recover. I think the recovery makes, 80% of the exercise. If you know where it's going, and after all you wait for it, it's not as intense. We don't run that much. We talked yesterday I think I mentioned that yesterday. The distance in a tennis match on average is between 3.5 kilometers and 4 kilometers. It's not a lot. Okay? The tricky thing is there's between 1,400 and 1,500 changes of direction. Okay? And that makes it sort of thing. So you're much better off. Practice your consistency with a bit of recovery. But these type of things you have to put in there because this is the realistic way. This will make players move better on the court. Okay? Let them play 30 minutes forehand cross court, they'll get more consistent. But if they can't run, they're not going to be able to take advantage. Okay. before we
tens
move to
explicação
the,
em tudo. É só
to the
traduzir.
serve, any more questions on forehand or backhand? Because then we'll do some more serve and return.
I would like to ask a question regarding the position of the recovery. If you do a cross court forehand or you're building the point with your forehand, do you recover when you are building a point with your forehand? Okay, do you recover to the middle or slightly to the left side of the court? What's your opinion on that?
But it depends. Yesterday we called it two-step recovery towards the middle of the court. But you don't have to get towards the center. I mean, do you mean? We have to try to get to the middle, or is this good enough?
No. On the other side, so that they can hit one more forehand.
Ah, okay. For the next shot, whether you want to recover.
Yeah, for
further.
protecting more the left side to build a point with your forehand.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you look at Nadal,
Yeah.
he serves, and I said yesterday, it was I think 93% after his serves, he can play a forehand. He can only do that, okay, by serving and already moving this direction, of course. And the same goes with if he hits a forehand, the further he can get, the more chance he will get of hitting another forehand, the next shot. But everything depends on which direction you hit the shot, of course. If you do the same exercise, let's imagine yesterday we said if you play forehand cross court,
Yeah.
you do a two-step recovery. I think that's a minimum that you approximately need. But let's say we are just practicing some consistency and I'm playing forehand down the line against backhand down the line. What would we do with our recovery? Is two-step recovery enough? No, you have to do that with three-step recovery. If you play up and down the line, make it in the habit. I mean, even my 9-year-old kids know that. You play down the line, 1, 2, 3, up. They need to do three-step recovery. But if you play forehand cross court, because the ball will come back from that side, it's a different situation. You cover it all. I mean, I don't have to explain. But if you play down the line, boom, you need to be further back. Then you need to really go to the other side of the court. So if I'm hitting my forehand here and I hit it forehand cross court, I already know if it's a good forehand cross court that even if it comes to the middle, I only have to come here. But if I hit it down the line there, I have to make sure that I recover further because it could be that I'm really running forward. So it depends on your direction of the shot and it depends if you're Rafael Nadal or not.
Probably not.
More on forehand or backhand or nothing? We go to next one. Serve. Then you have this one. This one is the most important one for young kids. Okay, this is learning how to throw. Right? You go from your right shoulder going forward. Imagine you've got an axis through your chest. Okay, then that's this rotation. You rotate around this axis. Okay, and the third one is the axis that goes through your hips, which is your trunk rotation that goes forward. They all three, guys. Let's maybe. They all three need to act together, but in a different order. They become more important as you grow up. I don't know who's done you've done the biomechanics, so I don't know who does that. Is that
César.
Do I know him? Yeah, I think I know him. Anyway, so those are the three main rotations. Now, clearly for young kids, this is the easiest one. We need to learn how to throw the ball. And throwing the ball, how you learn that, the best way, which is the biggest contributor to the racket head acceleration. The external internal rotation. Good answer. That's the biggest contributor of the thing. Now, you can only do that if first you have an external rotation. What is the problem? Yeah, with too many players, if there's no pre-stretch here, if there's no external rotation, they can't internally rotate. And what do you have very often if they can't throw a ball? Yeah, with Martina Hingis is a nice example. I mean, we can't argue that she was not a good player, but her serve is not her best stroke. Yeah? Okay, and she's got this like this shot put. Her serve, the acceleration comes out of the extension of her arm, but she's got very little external, internal rotation. So the best way of kids learning how to throw, you put them in this position and you focus, I'm going to throw over there, and you focus on the right shoulder. Okay, you turn your shoulders as quick as possible, and if I'm then holding a ball, then this will happen. Don't focus on the throwing arm. Try to focus on quickly turning the shoulders, and immediately, if you're not warmed up and if you're a little bit older, yeah, you immediately feel that there's this pre-stretch, and that is the correct sequence of throwing. Yeah? For this thing, that's what this twist in your shoulders is doing. That one. If I do this slow, it's not going to happen. This needs to be fast. The next one, what you have to do, and I think particularly for girls, I think a little bit more, don't let them throw like a baseball pitcher from the age of 11, 12. That's the age where your upper body needs to have a good frame. It needs to be. The toss will become more consistent because again these kids are tossing all over the place. But as soon as your toss is consistent, and for me a consistent toss is if you can toss the ball and you can always catch it. You know, people who have got a consistent toss, they can do that. Whether that's maybe 11 or 12 or what, you can argue about that. But it needs to be consistent. Once the toss is consistent, you can start asking that they use the legs a little bit more. Okay? It's at that stage where also this shoulder over shoulder becomes a little bit more important. So with girls, rather than doing this one, you can ask them to throw over something. Ask them to throw over the fence. Put them close to the fence, and they need to do the same thing, but they need to be in this position, and they do exactly the same, but let them throw upwards. They need to have the combination of this and climbing from the right shoulder over the left shoulder without, not this, no shot, no. They need to be able to throw. They need to feel what it is that right shoulder comes from lower in combination with this external rotation ankle. You can start doing that the moment that the toss is consistent and the upper body is in balance. Before that, I don't think we need to ask children to really jump. The good players from the age of 9, they can start already serving, and then somebody like I don't know if you know them, Sofia Kostulas and Amelia Walidora. We've got a very good generation of 2005 girls. Very good. There's like, not the level Kim Justine, but very good. Just underneath. And they are with a group of 3 players. They're going to be very good. I think next year they've got a good chance of winning the Winter Cup when they're all second years under 12. They're all jumping over the line. But with kids, with young kids, 8, 9, 10, serving and jumping over the line, only when the upper body is in balance. When the toss is consistent, as long as you don't have the right timing of turning your shoulders in and having a little bit of shoulder over shoulder, there is no point reinforcing the legs. Because what the legs are doing is not a high jump competition. What the legs are doing, they are only making the pre-stretch, the coiling of the thing, the pre-stretch a little bit bigger. So when you serve, when you go down with your leg, the moment everything is in this loading position, the moment you start to drive up, that's when your racket will come down here. That's the ideal combination. So if you're not in a stable position here and you start to push up with your legs wrong, you will reinforce the wrong pre-stretch. So first they need to be able to do this, and I call it a a walking serve. You know, they start right at the beginning, of course, they start like this and stuff like that. We'll say something about the grip lane. But then the next one, for me, I call it a walking serve. Before they start driving up with the kids, you know, they just have to land in the court and they finish with the tip stand. We don't know how they call that, with tip stand. You serve first like this, with to make sure that there's a weight transfer from the back foot onto the front foot. This is tip stand, finishing on your toes after the stroke with your back foot. And the next one, you walk, you know, and that's this one, okay? And that's to sort of start reinforcing this one and a little bit, you know, a little bit coming. Once they can do that in a balanced position with good control, that's the time where you go. That's the time to ask when they can start walking up to look sooner. Okay. And then the last is, so we've talked a little bit about this one, we've talked a little bit about that one, the shoulder over shoulder. And why I said no to you, sir, in the first answer, is that the hip over hip and the shoulder over shoulder, they're basically the same. You are trying to get your right hip over your left hip and your right shoulder, so it's a little bit, it's through this axis, so it was the same rotation. The one through your hips, where you sort of really go forward, that's the one where you add power and weight to it. That's where you see Maria Sharapova serve, and she really, you know, she finishes like that. I think you've all seen that already, how high she brings up her leg. The only reason why that is to stay in balance, so that she's not falling, you know, flat on her face. So to bring her back in, but that's because she's using her trunk a lot. So the 3 types of rotation. Now, you can only maximize on this shoulder over shoulder if you have the correct grip. Therefore, I think it's therefore I think it is very important that with young kids we spend enough time on doing this with the correct grip. And very easy. And doing this here is not easy for those kids. The combination of extending the arm, rotating the shoulders, it's very difficult. But if we want, once at the age of 13, 14, to get into a good spin serve, or at least with a little bit, where we can work the ball a little bit, they have to, from a very young age, get used to that. Yesterday I did that with Sydney. All these type of exercise with a chopper grip, open racket face, this one, they will all help to eventually help your serve. And also what you can do with the very young kids, even if they play with a red ball or an orange ball, you do this exercise with a yellow ball, because it's very hard with an orange ball to do this, because the ball doesn't bounce hard enough. I can do this one with this grip. I can watch TV, and I can do this for an hour, and you don't feel anything. Do this with the correct grip, and this is a lot harder. Do this with this grip, and what you see, if they get tired, they start to go like this. This is not a good exercise. That's not it. No, we want to hit a flat ball. I would like players with a chopper grip to learn how to play a flat ball first. Afterwards, of course, when we want to, it's a good exercise. I know what the point is, but sometimes you ask, let's try to hit the ball with that. I think that's a good exercise to let them feel what a chopper grip is. But actually, it is not so good either, because there's no pronation. The tricky thing is, have this grip and play a flat ball and pronate at the right time. Okay? We have to get them used to this. And what they do here, they can practice a lot. I send kids home who struggle with that every day 50 times. And if it's too hard, they can take the racket a little bit shorter and they do that 50 times. Ask your players who struggle to keep the grip to do this 50 times every day with a yellow ball, even if they're with orange, with a yellow ball 50 times every day. Okay? In 3 weeks' time, you can start asking exercise like this to pronate up here, because what they do here is exactly the same as what they have to do here. And you start with a flat serve, and a nice exercise for that is, I use the tram line often for that. And to have this repetition, you can start on the mini, depending on how old they are, here, or you can do it from the baseline. I bounce the ball 3 times, huh? 3 times bounce, flat ball, and then you play this serve, and the goal is you let the ball bounce in the tram line, in the double line, and the second ball also needs to land in the tram line or in the length of it. Do we have another ball? What we because you can have the kids who are not pronating, they will do this, they will do this exercise, and it lands inside. Okay, this is still pretty okay, but you can have kids who can slice the ball, it lands one ball there, but then it goes completely sideways. No, we want them first to feel what it is to hit a flat ball with the correct ball. That's the challenging task, and if you can do that, then you're in a position, if you then start add the legs to it, and you start hitting a bit harder, they will automatically from this position, your racket that goes upwards will go faster. That's what our legs do. Our legs, we are not jumping as high as possible. That's not the point. It is this combination. When you're here in this position and you jump, that's when your racket goes down, and the moment you go up, that's when your racket goes down. So if you see pictures from Bruce Elliott, it is that what will determine how much exo rotation and endo rotation you can do. The moment you drive up in the air, you go up, that's when your racket needs to be at its deepest point. So what I also don't like is this exercise where you start from here. I've seen people do it maybe, that you start from here. Always start from here. The most difficult thing for timing is hop, hop. If you do this too close to your head, you're also not going to have an endo rotation. Exo rotation, endo rotation, you hit your head. I always say brushing your hair, okay, you do that in the morning, in the bathroom, not on a tennis court, okay? It needs to be away 90 degrees, 90 degrees, it needs to be away from your head. Now this is not good either, we have, that's the other extreme, you have kids of course who 90 degrees, and from there you can do this short serve. So, you start with young kids, a lot of this exercise. Then the next one is, they need to learn how to hit a flat ball, and then you take care of this rotation first, you add a bit of that to it, and then when it's a consistent toss, you start adding your legs to it. And then you can choose, if you have a player that needs more second serve, a bit more margin, what are you going to do? You're going to test if they are stable enough that they bring the foot in, because that will help having more vertical propulsion. Okay? But of course, if they are too young and not strong enough, and you do that and they're all wobbly, okay, they have to keep the foot back a little bit longer. But that's one of the options of having, you know, if they put the feet, or if you keep the back foot back, make sure it is not too far back. Because you feel it. If it's too far back, you feel that you can't coil. If you bring it here, like Roddick or Monfils, you can still coil very well, and you can have what we yesterday called the angle of separation. That's also a determining factor, how well you can pre-stretch and how well you can do this endo rotation. There's two angles of separation in the serve. The same one as the forehand. Yeah, you got your hip, you got your shoulder. Yeah, this is one angle of separation. This is the horizontal angle of separation. Same as in the forehand. But you've also got another one. You've got the vertical angle of separation. Your hip like this and your shoulders like that. There's a difference between this and this. Okay, and there's a difference between this and this. Okay, so two angles of separation, and they're all in your whole multi-segment serve. They all need to be in place before you start driving up with your legs. It is not how high we jump. Okay, it is the timing of the jump that will decide if we maximize on that whole chain of segments. So another question that I often get is, if they bring the foot up, so we talked about back or up, if they bring it up, where should it be? Should it be there? Should it be here? Is that a big problem if it's here? If you have a player who is strong enough and who is flexible enough to bring your foot here but still have a good angle of separation, it's not a huge problem. But what happens most of the time, they bring the foot here, the hip opens and the shoulder opens, and then you have a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem, but you also need to be strong enough. If you bring your foot more here, you need to be strong enough to use your obliques here to turn away and to still hit. So you need to be strong enough. Strong enough in tennis does not mean a six-pack. We do not need six-packs for stomach muscles. I don't know if in the biomechanical or in the fitness sessions, sit-ups are not making you serve better. They make you maybe look good on the beach, give you a nice six-pack, but that doesn't guarantee you a better serve. Why not? Why not? If you have a six-pack, what type of muscles do you have then? You don't. They're not stretched enough. And when do we use our stomach muscle the most? In a completely stretched position. You know, like this. Even if you bring your foot here, it's there and there. So your rectus, we've got the rectus abdominis and we've got the obliques. The rectus abdominis. This is a typical stomach injury on the left side, the front left side of the injury. You know, it's because you use it in the moment where it's completely stretched. So if you think that by doing sit-ups, you know, and these crunches, you make them shorter and shorter. So what's going to happen? You know, the moment you're here, tack, you're going to get that. So you need to do your stomach muscles in this position, and then with a slow resistance, with a medicine ball, with red cord exercise, your core stability exercise, you need to lengthen these first, and then use them in the correct way. Very important on the serve. Yeah, let me say. Yeah, good. No. We've got a one bit about external and internal rotation. By the way, I've first got another question. We go back to how important is it to hit it as high as possible? What is the difference between endorotation and pronation? Where does that difference sit? Endorotation and pronation. Yes? Yes? And where's the pronation happening? Yeah. Pronation is the forearm. Pronation is the forearm. Pronation, supination, and the endorotation is the upper arm. So two different, they happen around the shoulder and elbow joint, but one is the forearm and one is the upper arm. Okay, so I go to my question. If what Joanna said is correct and your endorotation is exorotation, and then endorotation is the biggest contributor to racket head acceleration, how important is it to get the ball at the highest point? No, why not?
To stretch.
No, very good answer. So if you go as high as possible, you know, your endorotation is not making much difference. That's the extension of your pronation, because that's what the pronation, and in the end the wrist snap, they add a little bit as well if you time that really well. But you only, from this alone, you're not going to hit hard. It is only the wrist snap only works because it's part of a chain, and it's the end of a chain. It's like when you do this with a towel, you know, and you just, you know, and that's where the wrist snap also adds something. But the biggest one is endorotation, exorotation. You have to have your arm in 90 degrees to have a good exorotation. If I do this like this, you know, and I'm only doing that, the difference between this, you know, and from here is huge. And of course, we don't want to be hitting it just above our head, but in an ideal position. And actually the first one who did that really well, where you saw that, was Michael Stich. I don't know if you remember the serve from Michael Stich. He didn't reach up that high. He also didn't jump. Of course, he's a tall guy, that helps. But if you see where he hits the ball, his racket is in this position. He's absolutely not there. He's hitting it here. Try to find a picture of him. He was really hitting it there. But he had, as we all know, he had a pretty good serve. And he was tall enough. Of course, that's for the first serve. That is important. With the second serve, the combination of the extension of the arm, so that you get the ball upwards, is also important. But you do not need to get the ball with a completely straight arm. You always want to get it as high as possible. You don't want to be serving here, but it's not a goal to have it as high as you possibly can. Okay, what is a very common mistake or difficulty in the serve is if it's I call it the coordination of all the limbs that are together. What you often see with players is if they toss the ball, they toss the ball a little bit more with girls, sorry, a little bit more with girls than with boys. They toss the ball, and what happens? They go like that. I think we've all seen it, and it's like you have, this is a chain of reactions that happen in your things, that happens together. It is very difficult to toss the ball and load your body like that. And you can prevent that. There's several reactions like that. If you do this, that's also an open reaction. These are all chains in your muscles that happen. When you lift one shoulder, it's much more natural to lift your shoulder as well, because this is also a chain, all your muscles around your neck. You do this. No, you have to, one shoulder goes up, the other one goes down. Difficult. A good exercise, which I think you can do with a lot of good players, is start from here. You can serve as hard. It's not as rhythmical, so you need to produce more force, but you can serve as hard from here than when you do this whole thing. I still recommend that you would do a whole motion, but when you're from here, the easy thing there is that this bit is a lot easier. So you split your serve in two, and then what I think is a good exercise for the one for 10, 11-year-old kids is that you toss the ball, and they need to be able to pick the ball up, and they need to be in this ready position. This is the first part of that serve. And the second one you can do separate. You start from here, and the weight transfer you will see is a lot easier. So you go from here, from the back foot, you toss and you serve. It's so much easier. Okay, from this position, the weight transfer from the back foot to the front foot, and keeping this racket in place. You can check beforehand. You can be in front of a mirror or a window next to the thing. You look at this. Okay, this is 90 degrees here. I'm not brushing my hair. You toss the ball and it has to stay in the same position. The only thing that changes is your shoulder position, and then you're in the right position. And you can do that for a few months. Let them serve with this short serve. It's absolutely not a problem. And then the art will be whether they go from here or whether they go straight to there, is to have the first part that they end up here. But I really, really like, and I do it with almost every kid that has got a serve problem, at one point I split the two things up. Part one, the loading phase, and part two, the actual hitting phase. Because it's quite a tricky stroke for the kids.
So,
Yeah.
and you put them when you work with the step right, or
I think, yeah. From there, and they can bring the foot in. It's the same thing as with a normal serve. I prefer always that they bring the foot up. That's my preference. I feel it's, but certain kids are not ready for it, and you need to sort of see when you do it, and if they have enough topspin, then I think if you're very flexible in your hip region and you can sort of do this, you can get them. Then there's no need to bring it in. But you have certain people who are really stiff, and then bringing this in gives a bit of that extra segment. So, but that's for us as coaches to decide. Okay. Any questions on the serve? Because then we'll do a bit on the return. Any more questions? The dominant hand. I call this 25. The right hand is not doing so much forward. 25, 75. This one here is 50-50, and that one there is 75 and 25. And the role of the vertical and the horizontal acceleration changes a little bit depending on here. The left hand is more driving forward. Here the left hand is only doing this. Same with the serve. I think you've got the more extreme you got your grip, and whether this is full continental, semi-continental, chopper grip, backhand grip, you know, there is an evolution of grips. But fact is, if you don't have a situation where the power, the power source of your hand is underneath, so you can do this. Therefore, I think this is a good exercise to do that, because you feel that you have to have your strong thing on the small side of your racket. But if it is this or that, that doesn't really matter. But we will never be able to hit a topspin serve with this one. Especially if we come from here, we have to turn our shoulders. We often say, they turn the shoulders too quick. This is a nice question as well for an exam. You know, a player turns the shoulders too quick. You do a demo. I use sometimes video clips and let somebody serve like that. And then the question is, the player, or the problem is the player turns the shoulders too quick. How are you going to sort that? How are you going to solve that problem? What's the solution? What's the answer to that question? So that I've just done. Player opens hips and shoulders too quickly. But the grip, as long as this person stays serving with this grip, if you ask me to serve with this grip, I have to do that as well. Is it a problem to hit hard? No, it's not a problem to hit hard. Can I play topspin? No, I can't. So you have to feel that your power of accelerating your racket head needs to be on this side of the racket, so you can actually accelerate like that. And then you're ready, eventually, to play some topspin. So in the most common mistakes, last week I was with Dennis van der Meer, and some of you might remember Dennis van der Meer. He was a successful coach, you know, in the 1980s, 90s. He was really, you know, and he's the founder of the PTR. And he's now, I mean, he's a vegetable. He still lives, but he can't talk. He can't eat anymore. So it's a bit of a sad situation. But I went to his club, and he had all these fine tricks, methodological tricks out of the book, and it was like really nice to see. But he had all these type of exercises, and you need to find your own way of how to sort of feel the difference between where your hand needs to be in relation to the racket head or the speed of the racket head acceleration. And Dennis was really, really good in that. He made tennis very simple. And the more you think about it, you need to sort of come into your head that things become more simple. Even there's books written about it, so for you it needs to become more and more clear. That's the toolbox thing. It can be a lot in your toolbox, but you only pick out what you need. Okay, another question, sir? Okay.
Just a small question about the grip.
When you go up, that's when the racket comes down. Body goes up, that's when the racket goes down. Okay, so with this one, so the difference between that and that, it is about more power and more control to get more racket head acceleration, to have a bit more easier acceleration. But you feel like you lose control if you do this one. It's difficult to generate the same amount of, I can't remember the exact percentages, but Bruce Elliott has them. The difference in upper body strength and shoulder strength is quite remarkable. They have the same range, even a bigger range, but they simply don't have the same explosive power to do that one. There was another interesting stat on the serve that after the age of 18, players don't serve harder anymore. They've done that with male players and with female players, and I was really surprised. Okay, players don't serve harder anymore. So they've done research with the top juniors, and then what the speed was with the seniors. They don't serve harder anymore. I was really surprised. I thought, you know, these guys like, no, probably Sampras and Kaglovic and those guys, they were all serving 200 when they were 18 already. And one of the reasons is they probably get stronger, but they become less flexible as they get older. But yet there's a huge difference in winning percentages. And that's they become more experienced, of course. Karlovic or Federer or the big servers, at the moment when it's 30-40, when they're 24, they can put the ball right there where they want it, and they are more stress, resilient, so they're not as influenced by things, and they can read the opponent better, so they know better, well, I need to go more there or there. So you become more efficient as you get older with your serve, but you don't serve harder. I was a bit surprised with that. I find it hard to believe. But he did that with a lot of Australian tennis players. So he hasn't tested this with Karlovic and Federer, but with other guys, with the ATP and WTA professional players from Australia. They served 5 years ago when they were juniors. They serve as hard as they serve now. And they maybe are stronger because your body develops, so you would expect that they serve harder. But probably the reason why he says is as you get older, you become, and we all start to feel that you become more stiff, and you don't take as much advantage of the range of exo rotation and endo rotation anymore. Put more power on it, but not as flexible anymore. The slice service is the most used serve because this is difficult. Is that a huge problem? Well, not necessarily, because the best return is probably the backhand. So it's not a huge problem that they serve maybe a bit more sliced and a bit more to the forehand. Of course, Dementieva, that was very extreme, how she did that. But I think this is a good comment to then leave to or maybe one comment on the serve, and then we move on to the return. I think that your slice serve, if this is your favorite serve, or the most used serve, it is only as effective as your flat serve down the tee or your kick serve. Because in the case of Dementieva, you cannot do that at all. What do? You know that they only hit slice? Well, you move a bit more here, and it becomes easier to return. So I still think that even if it's not your favorite serve, for all the girls, we have to let them practice the tee serve and the kick serve here. Even if tactically they're not going to use it often. If they can use it every once in a while, it's going to make the range, the spread of the two widest serves big enough. So, in my opinion, all the female players have to be able to serve flat and have to do a kick serve, even if they don't use it that often. A little tip to make the angles a little bit better on the serve. If you're a right-handed player, I will automatically have a bit of slice in my serve. So I would, as a right-handed player on the deuce court, I would position myself as close as possible to the middle. Because even if I hit down the middle, that's not really in the middle, it will always have a bit of slice. It will always go towards, and from this position, even if I'm here, I can still, with enough slice, can get to the sideline. On this side, I would do it differently. Here, I would move a bit further away from the middle, because from this side, I can still hit down the tee with enough slice, enough spin, that it goes away from the opponent. And from this side, the only spin I can use is kick. I can make it bounce up, but I can't make it go like that. So here, I really benefit from having a position a bit further out, so I increase my angle. This principle goes here as well, of course. And the further I go and stand here, the sharper I can get my opponent out. But the problem is that my tee serve is all my effective movement. So for a right-handed player, to maximize the width of the both options, right-handed player closer to the middle, left-handed player, left side a little bit further away from the middle. Good. If we go to the return now, if the slice serve is a most used option, is one that goes out wide, then we get back to our cross and cut situation from yesterday. It's a ball that goes away from you, so we want to cut the angle. I think it's a stroke that needs to really be practiced a lot, especially on hard court and on grass. If you have good players that play, you know, professional tournaments on grass, it's a really difficult stroke. I'd like you maybe to think about or use. When you do your wide forehand, you are running, and you have this right, left, right. Your last 3 steps are actually the same as your return. Okay, when you do this cross and cut that we did yesterday, you do the same here. You do your split step, split, 1, 2. These are the last 2 steps that you do on your wide forehand, the one that we did yesterday. The difference being that when you are running, your shoulders will be turned in this direction already. You will be running like this, and you do this right, left, right. Okay? And your shoulders will turn, normally it will happen unless you do this, this one only the same. What I want you to focus on is turn, and you want to cut the angle here, is split. 1 is catch the ball with your strength. You want, with this first step, you want to get your racket in a position where you can catch the ball, and then you focus on turning your shoulders. And you need to exaggerate the turning your shoulders, because the serve is the ball that will come the hardest at you, probably harder than forehand. Okay? With a forehand in a rally situation, you do your running forehand, you have more time to generate pace with your racket yourself. With the serve, try to use the speed of the serve as much as possible. Why is that important? The speed of the ball that you hit is determined by approximately 75% of the racket speed of your own speed that you produce, and 25% of the oncoming ball. That's why it is much harder on a slow ball. Is that a cat?
You have a thief there.
Did he take the ball out of the court?
No. He wants also to play.
So think about that. Let's think about that. If your serve is hard and you can use 25% of a hard serve, you don't have to produce that power yourself. So use the speed of the oncoming ball. That's why a sitting ball, that's why hand feeds, which a little bit more in clay court countries, in Spain and here maybe as well, you use here a lot. I think they're very good exercise, because what you have to produce 100% of the speed. You toss a ball like that, you have to do 100% of the work. When there's an oncoming ball, you can use the pace of the ball, and the serve is a perfect opportunity to do that. But
He wants another ball. Huh?
he wants
He
another
wants
ball.
another one. He's inside already.
The problem is that with the serve, of course, you can use that 25%, but there's another problem on the return of serve. You don't have that much time. Okay? So therefore, you don't have the same preparation on a normal forehand. I think it's time to go home. My court now. I've booked this court. So let's wrap up with this last comment on the return. You don't have time to take a big swing. Just catch the ball, okay? And because you can't turn your shoulders that much, you have to focus on the shoulders, not on the swing here. You do catch and turn, okay? Catch the ball, turn your shoulders. Try it the next time. We're not going to go on court anymore and get warmed up with the serve, etc. But write that down or remember it. Catch the ball, turn your shoulders with the same footwork as the last 2 steps on the thing, on your running forehand. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Catch, turn your shoulders. It's more than enough. And try to do that with players. With Janina, I did that last year in the grass court season. I exaggerated that because it's not so easy to find any player that serves hard and precise enough to really time that. But we did that for the whole season, and her return on the forehand side has improved massively on that one. You know, she was standing in the forehand position and I was serving from here. You know, from here in this position on my knees, you know, and I was serving these balls. You know, so it wasn't that hard, but she had very little time to react. So the only thing she did, hop, tack, hop, that one. And then the transfer to a normal serve, you go to the other side. The ball is harder, but you have so much more time. You really have to, this is for the better players, you do this, but for the better players, do this, same on the backhand, oh, and here, I did this one, but you serve, you go really low, that type of ball, up. And then you can start doing it with a bit of slice as well. It's perfect for on a fast, hard court serve, or on a grass court. Catch and turn. Catch the ball, turn your shoulders. What you then can do, one last comment on this catch and turn, to make it a little, because players will know that you serve out wide, I would put a strip here. Your normal position might be here to return. You put a strip a little bit further back, that they have to start from here, so you leave the gap, you know, you leave the opening there, and you put another yellow strip there, and they have like a goalkeeper, catch the ball, turn the shoulders, and get the ball in front of that yellow strip. It's a very good exercise for the return on the slice serve, which is the most used serve in a women's game. Good. Questions on the return? Extra questions? Because then we can go. I mean, for me, I don't know where Vito is. I think Vito might want to wrap up. I don't necessarily have much more to say, but we can just have some Q&A or some general things here. For me, we don't have to go back upstairs. Are there any more questions on the return to start with? And then we can maybe wrap up and just go over what we looked at, or questions? Nobody? A beer? Car journey home? Flight? Is somebody flying out tonight?
No.
Somebody here with a plane?
Tomorrow I fly. I go by
Düsseldorf?
Lisbon. No.
Ah, no. I go Düsseldorf.
You go by Düsseldorf from here.
Fly or Düsseldorf?
And I fly from here.
Okay.
Lisbon.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm of course at the other side of the country now. I'm 1 hour from Düsseldorf, so Düsseldorf Freiburg direct.
I'm 1 hour and a half from you.
Yeah. Okay, any general questions? Because then I'll ask, I think I'm not going to set my computer up unnecessarily. I think it's been long enough. We've talked a little bit about, Vito has said a little bit tennis, a little bit, a little bit women's tennis. We've done it yesterday, off court, on the court, a few specific. Hopefully it has made you think a little bit that it is played with the same rules, but it's a different game, and we need to learn how to appreciate it, look at it differently, and then we can influence and coach better. Then there was the part this morning was a bit with what is the business structure if you want to do more than just coaching for yourself. You do that in a team, you have a bit of a vision, there needs to be lesson plans, there needs to be communication between the team. SAS, make sure you have a system that you believe in. I've got my system, you should have your own system, but make sure it is aligned with all the other people that you work with, and that it is specific enough and not too general. So that was my vision this morning, together with sort of player development, how you sort of focus on certain aspects that you can make the difference with players. But shoot, if there's any more questions. If you guys are happy, I'm happy too.
I'm happy.
It's a little bit the same problem. The only thing is, what we discussed yesterday, the turning your shoulders is a little bit more difficult, cutting the aim, because you can keep your balance by having your left hand here. If you're two hands on the racket, same goes for the right-handed player against the left-handed there. This is not so easy, but the principle is the same. Yeah, the principle is the same, but it's a lot more difficult to execute. But you really need to serve. This stays the same, but you can't reach that far. You still need to focus on the same thing.
And about the position on the position of fighting for the return.
On the return, well, you got if I'm returning, this is a simple mathematical matter. If you have the T serve and you have the white serve, and I want to cover both sides as good as possible to cut the angle there and cut the angle here, I would be a little bit like this position. But you have people who start like this, and then split. But it's the moment when you split that is important. How you start, if you start like this, or if you start like this, the moment that there's a serve happening, you know, they do a split step. And that split step I would do so that I've got the best option of doing that. But of course, on a second serve, when you know it's not a hard serve, you know, then your split step can be a little bit more towards your forehand. But on a first serve, I would do it right there, that you can cut the angle on both sides. Now, cutting the angle, if it's a T serve, same principle. This ball is not going to go further away. If I'm standing like this, cutting the angle is actually parallel to the baseline. So I've got a nice video clip with Kim where she's turning, and the goal for Kim is you have the yellow strip here, catch and turn. The strip is there, but on the backhand side, on the T serve, it is just the baseline. It's split up, and it's just getting this one, and the ball cannot cross here. So, but on the first serve, second serve, it can be a little bit different. If you want to start looking for the forehand a little bit more. Talking about that backhand there, earlier about these grips. This 50-50 grip, this neutral grip, I find particularly for women's tennis, for the girls, a better one. There's very few that can have an aggressive backhand slice, where you need to really have contact in front and be really solid. They mostly play backhands on a low ball, so the racket that's open is not too bad. And the 50-50 one gives the most freedom. The disadvantage, if you exaggerate with somebody like Jim Courier, he was really extreme. That was like 90-10 or something like that, the way he was hitting that. For the cross-court ball, that was not such a big problem. Not such a big problem, but the down the line one, that was not his best forehand, down the line, because he really had to sort of bunt a little bit, in English they call it, to sort of to extend through the ball was very difficult. With this 50-50 one, for the down the line one, you can use your left hand to go through the ball, and you can use the left hand to play topspin. With this one, it becomes extremely difficult. So, but for the men, I don't mind it that much, because they use the volley more, they use more, they block often a slice there as well, and the transition to a one-handed backhand is a little bit better. It's interesting, the more, if you have players that have an extreme dominant grip for the backhand, these players, in order, you have to look at it this way. The moment you want to make contact with the ball, your racket face needs to be perpendicular on your contact point. Okay? So if I have an extreme grip and I play a backhand, it means that I need to turn my shoulders more. My contact needs to be more in front with this grip. If I'm here, it goes in the net. I cannot hit here. It needs to be there. So I also need to turn my shoulders a little bit more. It's a little bit like Nadal. Okay, and Nadal's got quite an extreme. He's a little bit less now, but he used to be a lot more like this, left-handed. I need to turn my shoulders more. This is increasingly difficult when you're on the run. Okay, because when I'm running towards my backhand and I've got an extreme grip, okay, I need to get in this position and I need to turn my shoulders, because Marion Bartoli can play like this with her shoulders like this. She can still hit the backhand. If you have a dominant grip, you need to run, you need to turn your shoulders, and you fall like this. Now what do you see with Nadal? His running backhand, he can't really do it that well. He can't, this one like Andy Murray does it. Andy Murray can really run for a backhand, he can really do this. That's Andy Murray on his right backhand. I exaggerate. Nadal can't do it that way. That's got to do with his grip. Your grip determines your footwork and the way you rip. So what does Nadal do? Because of this grip, and he needs to get the ball there, he can't do this running backhand because you feel that this is really difficult. So what does he do? He takes this huge step and does it like that. It's nice if you're Nadal and you've got a body like that, it's okay, but if somebody with this grip for a double-handed backhand is not as strong as Nadal, he's got a big disadvantage. And then I would recommend changing the grip, so that they can actually do this running backhand a lot better. Or the other option, if you're this far already, consider a one-handed backhand maybe. But yeah, Nadal is, it's unbelievable, that guy. But there's also a reason why he's, getting one injury after another now. I mean, if you have a body like that, you can do that a few years, but if you don't have a body like that, you don't play tennis at all. It's unbelievable how strong he is. But that's sort of, the grip determines your footwork and your shoulder rotation. The forehand is a little bit the same. The more extreme you are, your racket needs to be perpendicular the moment you make contact. So the more classical forehand and the more extreme forehand, they have different rotations and different footwork with the shoulder. Anyway, we're talking a lot about technique now. It's not what you want to hear on a Sunday evening, 5 o'clock. Yeah, I can keep talking here, guys. I only have my flight tomorrow. Okay, last question. Anything? What I wanted to do, we're not going to do it anymore. We're going to wrap up here. But one tip for your lesson plans. I've shown you the lesson plan. I actually told Vito we were going to do that, but I'm just going to talk about it. We're not going to. This one here, and we had this. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Don't look.
It's 7 years of bad luck, or good luck, if it hits you. So you remember this lesson plan that I showed you? I've heard from Vito that you have to do a progression and a regression in your session. I actually have that in these exercises, and I'm going to give one simple example, and the rest you guys, better need to. For instance, on the forehand inside out. Let's say you have progression and regression on the forehand inside out. The most open situation is you play backhand cross court to each other, and you decide when the right ball is, when you play a forehand inside out, and then the point is live. It's a very classic, a very general, and a very good situation. You can do that for 15 minutes, and you do that good dip principle, and in 15 minutes they've run around the backhand twice. That means your exercise is not achieving what it wants to achieve, or it could be that the efficiency of the player doesn't understand what this is about, and you can then start changing your exercise a little bit. One way of doing this, the next step down that I would do, a regression, is I would feed the first ball in, very high topspin, if we do it from here. So we're still going to start with a backhand cross court, but not in a rally situation, but I would let the person start in the forehand and feed a really, that's not high enough, this type of ball high in the backhand, and they have to play it cross court back. That will be a lot easier for the person here to anticipate, okay, this is a shot where I can run around the thing. So this exercise, even though you feed the first ball high onto the backhand, for me, I've done this exercise, I've made this change to the exercise to facilitate running around the backhand and playing the forehand inside out, even if this first ball is specific. So if I'm giving feedback on this exercise, we talked about structural or incidental mistakes. I will not comment on that person. That person is just the start of the rally. The exercise, we are still working on forehand inside out. So that's the person that I am focusing on. Okay? The next step, you do that. This backhand cross court is so good, or those players are so bad, and they're still not, running around the thing. Then the next step is, of course, that you do that same exercise and that you feed the ball to the person that's over there, and they have to do the first ball, forehand inside out, and at least then you're 100% guaranteed that they at least hit a forehand inside out. So this is how you need to think about your exercise. And I've got these sort of progressions in my lesson plan as well. And it goes from when you do, when you work on the forehand cross court to open the court, I first like to put into my exercise. Yesterday I said always do something with coordination or something explosive. I would do something with the footwork on the wide forehand. So you work on this wide forehand, this right, left, right, this cross and cut. And then the next exercise, you let them do the forehand opener so that you can repeat the stroke, what you've done this exercise before. So you can be really creative in letting exercises follow one onto another. There's no rocket science to it, everybody's got their own method, but this is something, I've got a lesson plan for 24 weeks, that is like, it reads like a story almost. You can go from one exercise into another, and I would like my coaches to always make this into this story. Rather than saying, okay, we'll do a bit of forehand and we'll do a bit of backhand. No, try to sort of put always in a tactical situation. Okay, so but that as a last example for the forehand inside out, you start with a very open exercise, measure the efficiency. If it's not working, what are you going to adjust, where are you going to adjust? You can adjust by changing the position of the player, by how you feed the ball. There's various ways of doing that, but it's a very interesting way and it's not just knowing from step 1 to step 6 what the 6 exercises are. It is to pitch at the right angle. Do I need step 2 or do I need the most difficult exercise? And in order to measure that, think about that could he and did he principle. You don't need to comment on every single ball to measure that. Something needs to be done with this record, I think.
Garbage.
What's that? Garbage. Okay. I think we're more or less, we've just asked a little bit about women, business plan, I think we're more or less ready, Vito. I don't know if, for me there's no need anymore to show extra something in the classroom or whatever, so I'm more or less there. I don't know from your end, Vito, if there's
It's okay also. So thank you for being here with us. Round of applause. And so we finish. And we'll be here next week. If you have questions and so on, you can email Carl. Podem enviar o e-mail para mim, se houver alguma questão. Vocês vão receber logo no início o e-mail com as questões, não com as questões,
Podia ser.
os tópicos principais que vão sair nos exames.